Hello, people. Is there anyone in the chat? 8 people in the chat. Turned on comment section. Hello? Can you all hear me? How is the audio quality? Is or the video quality? Is it good? Hello, hello, hello. All right. Video quality is good. I'm good, Joe. I'm good. All right. Let's get into why gold and silver. So, this is the S&P commodity index over the S&P 500, and as you can see, when this ratio is low, it means that commodities are undervalued versus equities, right? And generally speaking, this occurs after or before crashes. So you can see here we had the oil crisis, so all commodities spiked through the roof here. Happened in the 90s, happened in the dot-com bubble, and then we got a rise all the way to the global financial crisis, right? So when equities get overvalued, it causes a great opportunity for gold and silver. So these were places to buy, right? And we are at our lowest ratio level, even back to the 1970s. So the reason precious metals, we then move into the 1970s. I can show you the ratio there. So go to gold here. Let's see if there's anything in the 1970s. You can see here that commodities were very cheap in and around this 80 quid level on gold, and then we had that collapse and high inflation, which caused the price of gold to increase by 800%. If we go back to that chart, you'll be able to see that by buying when this ratio is low, you get the highest returns, and we're currently still down here. Inflation, obviously, there's a lot of talk about transitory or not transitory. We're still up at the 5% level on a month-to-month basis. So it's not that transitory. And if we look at M2 money supply, which is all the money on deposit out in the economy or in the banks, you can see that it was doing this gradual move up. So we have this gradual increase in the money supply, and then during COVID, we got this massive spike from March 2020 to now. We're up over 30%, whereas before it was just a gradual increase. So they've already drugged the system up to cause this inflation, and we are overextended on the valuations in the S&P. So if we come down and have a look here, get rid of that. If you want to have a look at the S&P here, we're already just a continuous movement up after the crash. So we are overdue a correction. The financial system is in tatters. And we are past, obviously, the... I am streaming from an iPad. So post-pandemic levels were here, and we're already miles ahead because the money printers were put on, right? And the liquidity and the money had to go somewhere, so it got pushed into the stock market. So everything is overvalued. The amount of margin is ridiculous. It's the highest it's ever been. So when there's a steep correction, there'll be margin calls, and people aren't going to be able to pay, and it's going to collapse the market. So a nice 10% drop would be very nice indeed. It would provide entry, or a good entry. Why is there a color problem here? Why is that half and half? I'm not sure why half my screen is darker than the other. That is peculiar. So if we go... lost my train of thought. I'm going to show you guys. Okay. So currently gold is set up obviously for this bullish Gartley. Okay. And we could get a correction in the stock market for about 10%. So gold might dip down right to the around this 10% dip. And that would allow for perfect entry. And the way I can show you this is if we go into gold here. I'll just use the SPY. Apologies for this, folks. It just takes time to load all these charts up. So the crash didn't really happen until March 2000. You need to buy a Rode microphone. Just want to remove the hissing sound from your video. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I apologize for any sound difficulties. So the crash happened around here, right? Around March 2009, bottomed out around here. But we actually topped in the market back in 2007. So we got this big pullback. There. About 10 to 11% pullback, okay. Then we tried to make a new high, swing failured, right? You can see we spiked up here and swung back down. So we swing failured that level, and that was the beginning of the end as such. So if we go into, let's say, the silver and show you the same time period. So if we go in here, okay, we go into silver. So you can see we got this dip in silver when we got that first initial correction. So if we go back there, you can see here we topped out just here, but that first correction of 10-15% allowed perfect entry for a increase in silver of about 92%. So multiply that by 3 for the miners, you know, the silver miners. The price, the spot price might move 91%, but because of the cash flow benefits to mining companies, it boosts their cash flow projections, and so it's like using leverage when you buy a silver miner. So that 91% would be multiplied by 3, and that would give you a return of 270%, right? Then obviously we had the crash down here, right, which was around December, January 08. Now it didn't fully bottom till March, but it looks like silver bottomed right around November 2008. Yeah, okay. And then we got a parabolic run, just like you would see on a Bitcoin chart. We got this parabolic run in silver. So we can pull that up. So about 500%, okay? So we got a 500% increase in the silver price, and if you multiply that by 3, that's, please say I'm driving. The entry price, okay, well, we're kind of cutting corners here, but that would be that'd be 15x your money if you had that in a silver miner, okay? So there's massive gains to be had when this collapse of the financial system occurs, which is going to be right around the corner. I will give you the levels I am looking for. So for me, I am interested in between $19 and $17 silver. I think we can get a pullback down to that level. That will be sweet. You know, another 20% discount on the silver price before we get this move back up. And it could be just that 100% move that I just showed you back in 2007, where we get that 100% move and then we falter, and then there's a big correction because the stock market totally collapses. And then again, so you would take your money out near the top, wait for that absolute capitulation in the market, and then push your money back in again. So for this initial move back up, if we get the 10% correction in the S&P, so if we get this 10% correction in the S&P, scroll up here. So if we get this 10% move from here, right? And you know, we've got the FOMC meeting coming up on the 22nd of September. So we should know whether the Fed plans to taper or not. And if they plan to taper their asset purchases, which just means slowing it down, the markets may correct that 10 to 12% correction, okay? Maybe around the 4,000 level, people may buy it around here. But that is when I would be looking for entry into silver and gold, okay? And you know, silver is a monetary metal, so I've just given you the monetary reasons as to why silver will go up. There's going to be inflation. The commodities index is severely undervalued compared to equities at the moment, which I showed you on that first chart, which was in here. So commodities are severely undervalued. Okay. And I showed you that gold moved 1,000% in the 70s. So you could get absolutely gigantic moves in silver. I'll just double check what the silver movement was back in the 1970s. So from a monetary perspective, silver is amazing. Okay. It gives you the possibility of huge gains, kind of cryptocurrency gains, right? Uh, and it's kind of been sleeping the last while. You can see it's been sort of just snoozing here for over a year. Okay, but it will take off when shit hits the fan. If we go to the 1970s, 1971. Just stick the Helsinki's on here for a second. Oh, for Christ's sake. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so let's say the bottom is there. So that was 366% in the early 1970s. And then it kind of went a bit fucking nuts at the back end of the 1970s. So let me just try and calculate this. Yeah, 838%. So silver has huge potential. It'll probably reach the at least $100 mark from where it is right now. So potentially the 200 spot. So we just pull from around there. Yeah, about 800%. So you know, if it's increasing by 800% on the spot price, okay, you can expect the miners to, you know, multiply that by 3, and the miners will reach around 224x on your money. So massive gains to be had. It's also part of that green energy movement. So you know, Biden last week discussed he wants 45 to 50% of the power consumption in America to come from solar by 2050. So, and silver, there's a huge amount of silver in solar panels. There's also a huge amount of silver in wind power. There's silver in electric vehicles. In all your electronics, there's silver. So in your telephone, your tablet, it's in medical equipment because it's got antibacterial properties, sports equipment, water filters, and obviously it has that monetary side. So it's both got that the industrial side that 80% I think is industry and 20% is monetary. So it's a massive opportunity, and we're right on the cusp of the perfect entry. So again, I'll come back to the SPY, S&P 500, and you know, if we get this extra 10, if we get this 12% drop, you're looking for perfect entry for silver, and it's when I'll start to push in a lot more money. So we are potentially right around the corner of it. What would reverse this correction that we're having right now is if the FOMC meeting comes out and Powell says he's not tapering, we're never going to taper, you know, blah blah, keep printing the money and so forth. So it does depend on what the Fed policies are. But once we get this correction of 10 to 12%, then it's when I'm going to start pushing a lot of money backing up the truck as such and loading a lot of silver on. So I can go through gold now as well as what the target is for gold. And my gold target is around about 1600, okay, on the gold price is where I expect the low to be made before we target the $2,300 level. So what would that be as a percentage gain? About 50% on gold, and for silver it'll probably be around 120% or something like that. So if we go to the 618 here and we go to gold's all-time high is 50, so we could hit 50. Yeah, it's around 160%. So there's just massive room for and massive opportunity in the gold and silver space. And I'll show you a few of the stocks that I like, and we'll run through them now. What is that company? Franco-Nevada. This is a royalty company, and it is a very safe company is the word I would use. It's very safe. So basically royalty companies, they don't actually do any mining. They are basically like banks for the miners, and they take a percentage of revenue from each mine that they finance. So Franco-Nevada probably doesn't have that many employees, maybe like 10 or 11 employees, and their main job is just to provide finance to mines, and then they get a cut of the revenue that mine produces. So it's just a big cash cow basically. So it has low risk, low cost, and high profit margins, and so they are very good for if you're interested in dipping your toe in, right? So it made 116% gain between March 2020 and August 2020 during gold's initial run up. So that's double the move that gold made. And it's a low risk mining company because it's royalty based and not actually producing any gold or silver. The same with Sandstorm. It has a ton of projects that are in development. I think it's around like 200 different projects it's financed, so it's going to be a big mover. Once gold and silver takes off, that one got a 200% increase. Sandstorm. Wheaton Precious Metals is another very solid royalty company. So let us have a look here and see what kind of ground it made. Yeah, another 200%. Oh yeah, final time to subscribe at $40. Ooh. So if you know anyone that's interested in trading or anything like that, get them in. What was the ticker on the royalty company? Okay, well there's multiple royalty companies. There's Franco-Nevada, which is FNV. Okay, it's one of the largest royalty companies, absolutely massive. And Sandstorm, which is SAND, that's the ticker. Then you have Wheaton Precious Metals, which is WPM. This I think is a relatively new company here, but it's also a royalty and streaming company, Metalla Royalty, and its gains were 350% up to March. So massive gains for these companies. We've also got Nova Royalty, and they are in the copper and nickel sectors. So They are a royalty company that provides finance for copper and nickel, which is obviously they're in the electric vehicle craze as such. And so there's going to be a demand for more nickel and more copper. And obviously Elon Musk has talked about nickel shortages. So big potential there. This one was October 2020 all the way up here. So 500% increase in Nova royalty so far since the pandemic. What else have we got? Pan American Silver here, which is, so Nova royalty is NOVR ticker symbol, and the ticker symbol for Pan American Silver is PAAS. Okay, this is an actual producing mine. They have multiple projects online and are a very solid producing company. They had a 300% gain. Yeah, we have one that's actually very popular. That, do you recommend holding the physical gold and silver or paper trading? I would recommend having some physical. So I have about 40 ounces under my bed. So if you know where I live, you know that it's under my bed. And if you're looking to put it into a paper trust, then I would only trust the Sprott Physical Silver or Sprott Gold trusts that are on the stock exchange, as they have, as the futures is highly manipulated, so the price is suppressed by large companies, large banks. They suppress the price, and with paper trades, and they have this thing called fractional reserves. So they'll sell 1 ounce of gold to 100 people and have 100 pieces of paper gold to every physical ounce of gold. And so if you buy the physical Sprott fund, they have it 100% backed by their gold and silver. Whereas if you buy it from the CME futures contracts, the COMEX, if you buy it from them, there's no guarantee that they actually have the gold or silver on hand. So it's quite a dodgy system, and it is going to come crumbling down once the currency starts to get fucked up with all this money printing. Obviously, people are like, the inflation is transitory, and it's obviously not transitory if we're still up at 5% and the base effects are finished. The base effects were back in March and April of 2021, and now we're into almost October, and we still have inflation at 5.3%. Then if the stock market crashes and everything collapses, what is the Fed going to do? Is it going to let everything default, or is it going to turn the money printers back on and try and push all the assets back up, and bail out all the people that can't pay their debts? So I think, Michael Burry, I'm sure people know who Michael Burry is, but that guy, I don't think he's ever been wrong as such when he makes his calls. And obviously he made a big call in 2008 and proved everyone wrong. And he's thinking hyperinflation. Now, it may not happen next year or the year after, but maybe in 10 years' time, hyperinflation is a thing. But for the moment, we should just focus on the market collapse that's on the way. And for me, silver is more important in terms of return on investment. It's gonna give you a higher return on investment than gold, and the closer the silver and gold ratio gets, if it gets to like 15 to 1, that's the time where you want to start taking a lot of money off the table, or or even at 30 to 1, you want to start taking money off the table, because it kind of indicates when we're near a peak. The same with the gold Dow ratio. So if I just go into downloads here, yeah, so you can see here we had high, this is the Dow gold ratio, so high productivity, obviously a boom as such in the equities and so forth in the 1929 era. The Nixon shock, I imagine that was Richard Nixon taking us off the gold standard. But yeah, you can see gold peaks right around here in the 1970s. And then we have equities outperforming gold during the dot-com bubble, gets a big correction. Now we're coming back up. Dow is starting to creep into this area where things are overvalued in the equities, and we're looking for a correction back down to potentially a 1-to-1 Dow to gold ratio. So, you know, from a fundamental basis of silver being a critical commodity to a low carbon economy where we're using less carbon because of climate change, and we're using wind and solar and electric vehicles, you're going to need more silver. And the deposits are dwindling in the silver market. Okay, so from a fundamental basis, silver is a good investment, right? And then you add in the monetary problems, right, of expanding the money supply, inflation, asset bubbles everywhere. And if the Fed tries to taper, not even increase rates, but tries to taper, you're going to get a massive correction in the stock market. So there's multiple factors to why silver is a great investment. I've shown you some of the increases in those stocks just from March to now. And if we get another correction like we got back in March, I mean, it's going to be absolutely massive. So I hope that helps. In your understanding of why silver and gold are big investments to be considered. And if you have any questions, I'd love to take them. If you have any particular issues with what I went through or anything like that, I'd really appreciate your comments. If you don't have any questions, I am happy to end the stream, and hopefully that gives you some food for thought. You can do your own research, and maybe you'll consider investing. No worries, Brett. Appreciate it. I tried to cram in as much as I could in a reasonable space of time. Would you like me to create a Google sheet of all the companies that I'm interested in the S&P? What time? Yes, please. Yes. Okay, so I'll do a Google sheet and I'll post it in the gold section in Discord. Is physical gold better? It's like an insurance policy. So I wouldn't put all my money into gold, right? As in like physical gold. You want to just have that as a backup plan. You know, if your money becomes worthless, then you've got a bit of insurance, right? You can actually trade with the gold that you have. So that's the only reason you need physical. And then after that, I would focus on the stocks, so the royalty companies, the producers, the explorers, all of those kind of things, and I would do maybe like a 30 to 40% in royalties, 30 to 40% in producers, and 30 to 20% in the explorers, because the explorers obviously are more speculative, and therefore their returns are greater, but also your risk of losing everything is greater. Just like when you buy shit coins in crypto. So I would focus on. Can you make a list of these companies? Yeah, man, absolutely. Absolutely. I will do a Google sheet of the companies that I'm interested in that I have. So I'll do one where I'll show you the ones I'm invested in currently and ones that are interesting to me once we get a correction. The $18 to $19 silver price, it all depends on what the Fed does. Okay, so if the Fed begins to taper, if we get, like, what day is it today? It's the 21st. So if tomorrow your man Jay Powell comes out and he says that he's going to start tapering his asset purchases, it'll cause a shock to the stock market. And we could see the 18 to 19. Yes, that is definitely likely with Bitcoin. Once we get this stock market correction, well, maybe not the correction. Maybe it's correction. Yeah, maybe the 10% correction causes that dip down to 17K or 20K or something like that, and then it takes off again before the complete capitulation of the stock market. But that's quite interesting. It's an interesting point to make. If the stock market goes down, Bitcoin will go down. That is for sure. But the $18 to $19 silver, it could be this week, could be 3 months' time, could be 6 months' time. But you've got to wait for the correction in the stock market. And obviously, I can make people aware that I'm now adding to my portfolio due to the correction. So I hope all that information helps. I will do a Google sheet on all the companies I'm invested in, the companies I'm interested in, and I will put that in the gold section in Discord, and I'll obviously tag everyone. Can you make a list of good stocks for long-term equity? Are you thinking about after the crash? Because I also have a list for after the crash as well. So I'll post those two sheets up. I'll post up a sheet of companies that aren't like gold and silver companies. How do you time the top and bottom of the stock market? Yeah, how do you... I mean, you'll just have to pay attention. You'll just have to look at the charts. You'll have to look at the volume. You'll have to look at a lot of different things to see. You'll be able to tell. I mean, in 2008, 2009, it was easy to tell that the ship was hitting the fan. So the bottom won't be difficult to find. You know what I mean? We mightn't get the exact bottom, but you'll get very close to it. So yeah, I'll provide what's the best exchange to use for gold and silver. For me, I'm using eToro, but you need a decent amount of money on eToro to actually trade gold and silver. You need £1,000. So, but I know that Brendan uses Femex for gold, so it might be worth looking at that. Was thinking that. Thanks for applying. We'll definitely look at silver. The Galway boy. Hey. Up the dubs and all that. Yeah. So silver's definitely the one that I'm most bullish about, and it will give you the highest returns. So I'll do those two lists. I'll post them up later today. Thank you again for watching. It's good to sort of diversify your investments. Silver acts like crypto during a bull run, and it'll be exciting times. The next 2 years for silver will be pretty special. All right. thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. See you again on the next one. Bye for now.